You want to know what separates smart shoppers from people who essentially set their money on fire every single week. It's not income. It's not luck. It's the ability to see through the psychological manipulation happening right under their noses. And I'm about to expose 12 grocery store traps that are so obvious, so blatant, that falling for them honestly says more about your awareness than your intelligence. Here's what most people refuse to accept. Grocery stores are engineered warfare zones designed specifically to extract maximum profit from minimum effort shoppers. They study your psychology, track your eye movements, and exploit your laziest instincts with surgical precision. And the brutal truth? It's working. The average American family wastes over $1,800 annually on purchases that never should have happened. Not because the food was bad, but because their brain was asleep at the wheel. By the end of this breakdown, you'll either recognize yourself as the target or finally become aware enough to stop being one. But let's be completely honest here. Most viewers will watch this, maybe even agree, and then walk right back into the same traps next week. So the real question isn't whether you'll learn something new. It's whether you actually have the discipline to change your behavior. Let's find out. Number 1, end cap deals that aren't deals. Picture yourself walking into any grocery store right now. You turn the corner and boom, there it is. A massive eye-catching display, stacked high with brightly colored products, screaming, limited time, offer, and special price. Your brain immediately registers this as a deal. Why wouldn't it? The entire setup is designed to trigger that exact response. Except here's the uncomfortable reality most shoppers never figure out. Those end cap displays are premium real estate that brands literally pay thousands of dollars to occupy. Companies fork over serious money just to get their products featured there because they know something you apparently don't. Location sells products, not price. Let me hit you with some numbers that should genuinely bother you. Grocery stores charge suppliers between $1,000 and $10,000 per end cap placement, depending on store size and traffic. Think about that for a second. If a company is paying $5,000 just for shelf space, do you honestly believe they're also slashing prices to give you a deal? Absolutely not. They're making that investment back through volume sales from people who assume placement equals value. Here's where it gets even more ridiculous. Studies show that end cap displays can increase product sales by 30% to 400% compared to standard shelf placement. That boost has nothing to do with lower prices. It's pure impulse buying, triggered by visibility, and the psychological assumption that prominently displayed items must be on sale. I watched this play out in real time just last week. A major grocery chain had Tide Pods stacked on an end cap with a bright yellow tag screaming, "Special buy." The price? $15.99 for 42 pods. I walked 3 aisles over and found the exact same product sitting on a regular shelf for $13.49. Same size, same count, $2.50 cheaper, simply because it wasn't dressed up in marketing theater. And this isn't some rare occurrence or isolated mistake. Grocery industry insiders admit that end cap pricing is often identical to or even higher than regular shelf pricing. The only difference is presentation and perceived urgency. Here's the part that really exposes the con. Those bold sale and special tags you see plastered everywhere, they don't actually have to indicate a price reduction. In many states, stores can legally use promotional language without proving any discount exists. They're banking on your assumption that special means cheaper. So what do people who actually pay attention do instead? They walk right past end caps without breaking stride. If something genuinely looks interesting, they pull out their phone, check the price per unit, and compare it to the regular shelf version before making any decision. It takes 30 seconds. That's the difference between people who keep their money and people who hand it over for nothing. Number 2, family size that costs more per unit. And this trap is so perfectly engineered that even smart shoppers fall for it without realizing. You're standing in the cereal aisle, staring at 2 boxes. One says family size in bold letters across the front. The other is the regular version. Your brain runs a quick assumption. Bigger box obviously means better value, right? Buying in bulk always saves money. Except grocery stores know you think that way, and they're actively exploiting it. Here's the truth that's going to sting a little. Family-size products frequently cost more per ounce than their smaller counterparts. Not sometimes, frequently. And the only reason this scam works is because most people stop doing math the second they see the word family printed in large friendly letters. Let me show you a real example that made my blood boil. Just yesterday, I picked up a standard box of Honey Nut Cheerios, 10.8 ounces for $4.29, which works out to roughly 40 cents per ounce. Right beside it sat the family size version, 19.5 ounces for $8.49. Sounds like a better deal until you actually calculate it. That's 44 cents per ounce. You're literally paying more per ounce for the privilege of buying a bigger box with family stamped on it. And this isn't limited to cereal. The same pricing trick shows up with crackers, chips, cookies, pasta, rice, and dozens of other staples. Grocery chains understand human psychology better than most people understand themselves. They know larger packaging triggers a mental shortcut that screams value without requiring you to verify anything. Here's where it gets worse. Research shows that over 60% of shoppers never check the unit price when comparing product sizes. They rely entirely on assumptions and packaging cues. That's free money for retailers who can charge a premium simply by making the box bigger and slapping family size across the front. I had a friend who prided himself on being a smart shopper. He always bought the largest size of everything, assuming he was maximizing value. When I showed him the unit pricing on his last grocery receipt, he went quiet. Turned out he'd been overpaying on about 40% of his purchases for years, simply because he never looked at the tiny price tag on the shelf, showing cost per ounce. So here's your move. Ignore the package size completely. Focus only on the unit price listed on the shelf tag. It's always there, usually in smaller print, showing you the exact cost per ounce, per pound, or per item. That number never lies. Compare those unit prices across all available sizes and buy whichever one is actually cheapest. Sometimes it's the family size, often it's not. And the moment you start checking, you'll realize just how often bigger packaging is designed to scam you, not save you money. Number 3, fake sale tags. And honestly, this one should make you furious because it's psychological manipulation disguised as customer service. You're cruising down the soup aisle when a bright red tag catches your eye. Sale was $4.99, now $4.89. Your brain registers a win. You just saved money, right? Wrong. You saved 10 cents, which is functionally nothing, and you fell for one of the oldest retail tricks in existence. Here's what grocery stores are counting on. The human brain processes the word sale faster than it processes actual numbers. The moment you see that red tag, your decision-making shifts from rational evaluation to emotional response. You feel like you're winning even when the math proves otherwise. Let me give you some context that reveals how deliberate this really is. Retailers spend millions studying color psychology and price presentation. Red tags trigger urgency. Bold fonts create perceived scarcity. Strike-through pricing makes you feel like you're getting something that others missed. It's all carefully designed to bypass your logical thinking and activate impulse buying. And the discount itself, often laughably small. Here's a breakdown that should genuinely bother you. A recent analysis of grocery store sale tags found that over 35% of advertised discounts were less than 50 cents. Some were as low as 5 cents. 5 cents. That's not a deal. That's an insult wrapped in marketing. But here's where it crosses into actual deception. Some stores use a practice called high-low pricing, where they artificially inflate the original price just so they can mark it down and call it a sale. That $4.99 soup was never actually sold at $4.99. It was always $4.89. But showing a crossed out higher price creates the illusion of saving. And in many states, this is perfectly legal as long as the higher price was theoretically available at some point, even if nobody ever paid it. I watched a grocery manager admit this during a retail conference. He openly said their strategy involved rotating items in and out of fake sales because customers respond to the perception of discounts more than actual value. He called it optimizing emotional triggers. I call it lying with permission. So what do aware shoppers do? They completely ignore sale tags and focus exclusively on actual price. Is $4.89 a good price for this soup compared to other brands and other stores? That's the only question that matters. If you need to, pull out your phone and compare prices at competing stores, or check price tracking apps. The word sale means nothing. The number is everything. And if you've been falling for 10-cent discounts, thinking you're a savvy shopper, you're exactly the customer grocery stores prey for every single day. Number 4, checkout lane snacks. Let's talk about the final psychological ambush that happens when you think you've successfully navigated the entire store. You're standing in the checkout line, cart full, mentally exhausted from shopping. Your guard is completely down, and then you see it. Candy bars, energy drinks, magazines, beef jerky, all of it stacked at perfect eye level and arm's reach. Here's the part most people never consciously realize. You didn't walk into that store planning to buy a $3 Snickers bar. Nobody does. But grocery stores know something brutally effective about human psychology. Self-control is a finite resource, and by the time you reach the checkout line, yours is nearly depleted. This isn't speculation. It's science. A phenomenon called decision fatigue explains exactly why checkout lanes are designed the way they are. Every choice you made in the store, every aisle you walked, every product you evaluated, drained a little bit of your mental energy. By the time you're waiting in line, your ability to resist impulse purchases is at its weakest point, and grocery stores have optimized this moment down to the inch. Let me give you numbers that reveal just how calculated this setup really is. Checkout lane impulse purchases generate over $5.5 billion in annual revenue for U.S. grocery stores. That's not from planned shopping. That's from exploiting tired, distracted people who are trapped in a line with nothing to do but stare at products designed to trigger cravings. Here's how the trap is built. Candy bars are placed at kid eye level, so children nag their parents. Gum and mints are positioned at adult eye level, because fresh breath feels like a reasonable micro-purchase. Magazines with shocking headlines create curiosity you didn't have 5 minutes ago. Energy drinks promise a quick fix for the exhaustion you're currently feeling. Every single item is selected based on impulse appeal, not necessity. And the pricing? Deliberately inflated. That same Snickers bar costs $1.29 in the candy aisle. At checkout, it's $1.89 or more. Because they know you're not going to abandon your spot in line, walk back to the candy aisle, and return. You're stuck, you're tired, and you'll pay the premium just to avoid extra effort. I ran an experiment last month. For 4 weeks, I tracked every unplanned purchase I made at checkout lanes. Gum, candy, magazines, drinks. The total came to $47. Nearly $50 spent on items I never intended to buy and didn't actually need. Multiply that by 12 months, and you're staring at $564 annually wasted on impulse buys driven purely by strategic product placement. Here's your defense. Before you get in line, decide that checkout lane products do not exist. They're visual noise. If you genuinely need gum or a snack, you would have picked it up during your actual shopping. Anything you notice at checkout is psychological bait, and recognizing the trap is the only way to avoid it. Number 5, organic when it makes zero difference. And this is where grocery stores really start playing games with both your wallet and your perception of health. Walk into any store today and you'll see organic labels plastered on everything. Organic bananas, organic chicken, organic olive oil. And sure, some of that makes sense. But then you spot something that should make you stop and think. Organic salt, organic sugar, organic water. Let me be very clear about something. If a product has no pesticides, no synthetic chemicals, and no industrial farming involved to begin with, slapping the word organic on it is pure marketing theater designed to justify a higher price for absolutely no added benefit. Here's the reality that organic marketing hopes you never figure out. Salt is a mineral. It's harvested from ancient sea deposits or evaporated seawater. There's no farming involved, no pesticides, no fertilizers. Calling it organic is scientifically meaningless. Yet organic sea salt costs about 40% more than regular sea salt for literally the same product. Same story with sugar. Organic cane sugar and conventional cane sugar are chemically identical once refined. The organic version costs roughly 50% more because the sugarcane was grown without synthetic pesticides. But here's the kicker. By the time it's processed into white sugar, any trace of those farming practices is completely gone, You're paying extra for a process that has zero impact on the final product you're consuming. And don't even get me started on organic water. Yes, it exists. Brands are actually selling organic water, which is hilarious because water is H2O. It's a molecule. It cannot be grown organically or inorganically, yet people buy it because organic has been conditioned into meaning pure and premium, regardless of whether it makes any logical sense. Let me give you some context on how massive this con has become. The organic food market is now worth over $63 billion annually in the US alone. And while some of that growth represents legitimate demand for pesticide-free produce, a huge chunk is driven by consumers who've been trained to associate organic with better, without questioning whether that applies to every single product. Here's what genuinely matters. Organic certification makes a real difference for foods, where pesticides, hormones, and synthetic chemicals are commonly used. Fresh produce like strawberries, spinach, apples, and grapes, yes, organic matters there. Animal products like meat, dairy, and eggs, where farming practices impact hormone and antibiotic exposure, organic can matter. But pantry staples like salt, sugar, baking soda, and distilled products, completely pointless. You're paying a premium for a label that delivers zero health benefit. I had someone argue with me once that organic sugar tastes better. We did a blind taste test, 5 people, 3 types of sugar. Nobody could tell the difference. Not one person. Because chemically, they're identical. So here's your filter. Before buying anything labeled organic, ask one simple question. Does this product actually benefit from organic farming? Or am I just paying extra for a trendy word on the package? If the answer isn't immediately obvious, you're probably being scammed. Number 6, pre-cut anything. And this trap is so blatant, so absurdly profitable, that I'm genuinely amazed it still works on millions of people every single week. You walk into the produce section and see a container of pre-cut pineapple for $6.99. Sitting 2 feet away is a whole pineapple for $3.49. Same fruit, same quality. The only difference is that someone took 5 minutes to cut it up, and suddenly the price doubled. Let me say this as clearly as possible. Every single time you buy pre-cut fruit, pre-sliced vegetables, or pre-shredded cheese, you are paying someone else to do something you could easily do yourself in less time than it takes to scroll through Instagram. Here are the numbers that should genuinely bother you. Pre-cut watermelon costs about 50% more per pound than whole watermelon. Pre-sliced apples run nearly 300% more expensive than whole apples. Pre-shredded cheese carries a markup of around 40% compared to block cheese. And pre-cut butternut squash, sometimes 400% more than the whole squash sitting right next to it. This isn't convenience pricing. This is a stupidity tax. And grocery stores are cashing in big because they know exactly what drives this behavior. People are busy, stressed, and willing to pay absurd premiums to avoid minor effort. But here's the part that makes this even worse. Pre-cut produce loses nutrients faster, dries out quicker, and spoils sooner than whole produce. The moment fruits and vegetables are cut, they begin oxidizing and degrading. So not only are you paying double or triple the price, you're getting inferior product with a shorter shelf life. You're literally paying more to get less value. Let me walk you through a real scenario. Last week, I bought a whole pineapple for $3.49. Cutting it took me about 6 minutes while I listened to a podcast. I ended up with roughly the same amount of fruit that would have cost $13.98 in pre-cut containers. I saved $10.49 for 6 minutes of work. That's over $100 per hour. Show me another job that pays that well for mindless knife work. Same story with shredded cheese. A block of cheddar costs $4.99. The pre-shredded version of the same brand costs $6.99 for less cheese and includes anti-caking agents to keep the shreds from clumping. So you're paying 40% more for less product that's been treated with additives you don't need. And shredding a block of cheese takes about 45 seconds. Here's the move that saves hundreds of dollars every year. Stop buying anything that's been pre-cut, pre-sliced, or pre-shredded. Buy whole produce and spend 5 minutes doing basic prep work. If even that feels like too much effort, buy frozen vegetables. They're already chopped, flash frozen at peak freshness. Cost about 60% less than fresh pre-cuts. and last for months instead of days. Every time you reach for that convenient container, remember this. Grocery stores are betting you value 5 minutes of laziness more than $10 of your own money. Prove them wrong. Number 7. Store loyalty deals that raise base prices. And this scam is so beautifully disguised that people actually thank stores for ripping them off. Here's how it works. You walk into a grocery store and see a product with two prices clearly displayed. Regular price, $5.99. Member price, $3.99. Your brain immediately processes this as a $2 savings, and you feel smart for having that little loyalty card. Except here's the truth they're hiding in plain sight. That product was always supposed to cost $3.99. The store artificially inflated the base price to $5.99 just so they could offer you a member discount that brings it back down to what it should have cost in the first place. Let me explain the psychology behind this con. By creating two-tier pricing, stores make you feel like you're part of an exclusive club getting special treatment. You're not. You're being manipulated into thinking inflated prices are normal, so that regular prices feel like deals. And the real genius of this scam, it trains you to keep shopping at that specific store because you believe you're saving money, when in reality, you're just paying normal market rates while everyone without a card gets gouged. Here's some data that exposes how widespread this really is. A pricing analysis of major grocery chains with loyalty programs found that member prices were often identical to or even higher than competitor prices for the same products. In other words, the savings you think you're getting are frequently just smoke and mirrors designed to create false loyalty. Let me give you a concrete example. Target sells a box of Cheerios for $4.29 with no loyalty program required. A competing store sells the same box for $6.49 regular price, but offers it at $4.49 with their member card. You think you're saving $2 with membership. In reality, you're paying 20 cents more than Target and feeling good about it. And here's where it gets even more calculated. Stores track every single purchase you make through loyalty programs. They analyze your buying patterns, identify which products you buy regularly, and adjust pricing specifically to maximize profit from your habits. That's not customer service. That's data-driven exploitation. I stopped using store loyalty cards about a year ago just to see what would happen. My grocery spending dropped by about 12% because I was no longer psychologically anchored to one store's fake discounts. I started comparing actual prices across multiple stores and buying wherever the real value existed, not wherever the marketing felt best. Here's your reality check. Loyalty programs exist to benefit the store, not you. They lock you into shopping at one place, reduce price comparison behavior, and harvest your data to optimize profit extraction. If a store actually cared about saving you money, they'd just lower their base prices instead of creating psychological games that make you feel like you're winning. Number 8. Bulk bins that cost more than packaged. This trap catches even experienced shoppers because it completely contradicts everything you've been taught about smart grocery shopping. Bulk bins feel frugal. They look eco-friendly. They seem like the smart, savvy choice for people who care about value. And sometimes they actually are. But here's the truth that's going to ruin your perception of those charming rustic bins forever. Bulk items are frequently priced higher per pound than the exact same product sold in packaged form just 2 shelves away. Let me walk you through a real example that made me question everything. I was shopping at a popular natural food store and decided to buy almonds from the bulk bin. The price tag showed $12.99 per pound. Seemed reasonable until I walked past the packaged nut section and found the exact same almonds, same brand, in a 1-pound bag for $9.99. I was about to pay 30% more for the privilege of scooping nuts into a bag myself. And this isn't isolated to one store or one product. Trail mix, granola, oats, dried fruit, flour, rice, and dozens of other bulk staples routinely cost more per pound than their packaged equivalents. The only difference is presentation and the psychological assumption that bulk equals savings. Here's why this scam works so effectively. Bulk bins trigger a mental association with old-fashioned general stores, farmers markets, and wholesome shopping. Your brain connects those bins with authenticity and value, even when the actual numbers prove otherwise. And grocery stores know this. They're counting on you to make assumptions instead of checking prices. Let me hit you with some research that backs this up. A consumer study analyzing bulk bin pricing at major retailers found that approximately 40% of bulk items were more expensive per unit than packaged versions of identical products. And in many cases, the price difference was significant, sometimes exceeding 25%. Here's the part that really exposes the con. Stores love bulk bins because they shift labor costs onto you. You're doing the weighing, scooping, and bagging, while they charge premium prices and save money on packaging costs. It's brilliant from a profit standpoint, and terrible for anyone who isn't paying attention. I'm not saying bulk bins are always a ripoff. Sometimes they genuinely offer better value, especially for specialty items or small quantities you don't want to commit to. But the assumption that bulk automatically means cheaper is exactly what stores are betting on. So here's your move. Before you scoop a single ounce from a bulk bin, check the price per pound or price per ounce. Then walk over to the packaged goods section and compare. Pull out your phone if you need to and calculate the actual cost. More often than not, you'll discover that the quaint bulk bin is quietly charging you a premium while making you do the work. Number 9, name brand automatically equals better. And this belief is costing you thousands of dollars every year for absolutely no reason. Walk into any grocery store and you'll see two versions of nearly every product. The name brand with fancy packaging and aggressive marketing, and the store brand sitting quietly beside it, usually on a lower shelf, often in simpler packaging. Most people grab the name brand without thinking because they've been conditioned to believe that recognized brands equal superior quality. Here's the truth that brand marketing doesn't want you to know. Many store brand products are made in the exact same factories, by the exact same manufacturers, using the exact same ingredients as name brand products. The only difference is the label and the price. Let me give you examples that prove this beyond any doubt. Costco's Kirkland Signature products are often manufactured by major name brands. They're Kirkland olive oil, produced by the same company that makes premium imported brands. They're Kirkland batteries, made by Duracell. Their vodka, rumored to come from the same distillery as Grey Goose. Same product, same quality, sometimes 50% cheaper simply because it doesn't carry the ego tax of brand recognition. And this extends far beyond Costco. Target's Good and Gather line, Walmart's Great Value, and Trader Joe's store brands are frequently manufactured by the same companies that produce national brands. The recipes are often identical or nearly identical. The quality control standards are the same. The only difference is marketing budget and price. Here's some research that should make you rethink every grocery purchase. Consumer Reports has repeatedly found that store brand products score as high or higher in taste tests and quality comparisons as their name brand counterparts across categories, including canned goods, dairy, snacks, and cleaning products. You're not sacrificing quality. You're just refusing to pay for advertising. Let me break down a real comparison that happened in my own kitchen. Name brand tomato sauce, $3.49 for 24 ounces. Store brand tomato sauce, $1.29 for 24 ounces. Ingredients list, identical. Tomatoes, basil, citric acid, same order, same proportions. I did a blind taste test with my family. Nobody could tell the difference. Here's where the scam becomes obvious. Name brand companies spend billions on advertising, celebrity endorsements, and premium shelf placement. Guess who pays for all that marketing? You do. Every time you choose the name brand, you're subsidizing commercials, sponsorships, and packaging design that have nothing to do with product quality. I switched to store brands for about 70% of my grocery purchases 2 years ago. My annual grocery bill dropped by roughly $1,400 with zero noticeable difference in quality or satisfaction. That's not a small amount. That's a vacation fund sacrificed for corporate logos. So here's your new standard. Default to store brands for everything unless you have a specific, proven reason to choose the name brand. And by proven, I mean you've actually tested both and can genuinely taste or notice a difference. If you can't, you're just paying extra to make shareholders rich while your bank account suffers. Number 10. Healthy snack aisle lies. Let's talk about one of the most profitable scams in the entire grocery store. That dedicated health food section, filled with protein bars, granola, veggie chips, and organic snacks that promise nutrition while delivering pure junk. These products are brilliantly marketed with words like natural, protein-packed, whole grain, and gluten-free. They come in earthy packaging with images of wheat fields and happy farms, and they're positioned as smart alternatives to traditional junk food. Except here's the reality that nutritionists have been screaming about for years. Most healthy snacks are just candy bars and desserts disguised in wellness language. Let me walk you through some examples that should genuinely make you angry. That protein bar you grabbed, claiming 20 grams of protein, flip it over and check the sugar content. Many contain 15 to 20 grams of sugar. That's nearly as much as a Snickers bar. In fact, some protein bars have more sugar, more calories, and more fat than actual candy bars while costing 3 times as much. And granola, marketed as wholesome breakfast food for health-conscious families. A single serving of most commercial granola contains 12 to 16 grams of sugar and 200 to 300 calories. That's dessert-level nutrition, masquerading as health food. Here's the part that reveals how calculated this deception really is. The health food snack industry is worth over $32 billion annually and growing at nearly 8% per year. That growth isn't driven by actual health benefits. It's driven by consumer perception and marketing that exploits people's desire to feel good about their food choices without actually examining what they're eating. Let me give you a breakdown that exposes the scam. Veggie chips. Sounds healthy, right? Made from vegetables. Must be better than potato chips. Most veggie chips are primarily potato starch with a tiny amount of vegetable powder for color and marketing. The nutrition profile is nearly identical to regular chips. Same calories, same fat, same lack of nutritional value. You're just paying 40% more for vegetable theater. And those organic fruit snacks marketed to parents as better than candy? Check the ingredients. The first ingredient is usually organic cane, sugar, or organic fruit juice concentrate, which is just sugar by another name. Your kid is eating candy. The only difference is you paid more and felt better about it. Here's research that confirms what insiders already know. A study analyzing nutrition labels on products marketed as healthy snacks found that over 60% failed to meet basic nutritional standards and were comparable to or worse than traditional snack foods in terms of sugar, calories, and processed ingredients. So what's the move? Stop trusting marketing and start reading nutrition labels. Ignore every claim on the front of the package. Flip it over and look at actual numbers. Sugar content, calorie count, ingredient list. If the first 3 ingredients are sugar, processed flour, and oil, it's junk food, regardless of what the package claims. Here's my filter. If a snack has more than 8 grams of sugar per serving, or lists sugar in the first 3 ingredients, it's candy. Doesn't matter if it's organic, gluten-free, or blessed by wellness influencers. It's still candy. And paying premium prices for candy disguised as health food is exactly the kind of thing only unaware shoppers do. Number 11. Buying without checking the bottom shelf. This is one of the simplest yet most effective traps in the entire store, and it works because most people shop on autopilot without questioning why they're reaching where they're reaching. Here's the reality of grocery store shelf placement that retailers desperately hope you never figure out. The most profitable items are placed at eye level. The best deals are hidden on the bottom shelf where your neck hurts to look. This isn't accidental. It's a calculated strategy called shelf placement optimization, and it's designed to maximize profit by exploiting lazy shopping habits. Let me explain how this works. Brands pay grocery stores premium fees for eye-level shelf space because products placed at average adult eye height sell significantly better than products placed higher or lower. Studies show that eye-level products can outsell bottom-shelf products by 35% or more, even when they're identical items at different prices. Your eyes naturally scan straight ahead. Bending down requires extra effort, and stores know that most shoppers won't bother unless something forces them to. Here's a real example that illustrates this perfectly. I was shopping for pasta sauce and instinctively reached for the jar at eye level, $4.29. Then I crouched down and checked the bottom shelf. Same brand, same size, $2.99. I was about to pay 43% more simply because I didn't look down, and this pattern repeats throughout the entire store. Cereal aisle, premium brands at eye level. Store brands and discounted options at the bottom. Canned goods, name brands straight ahead, value options near your ankles. Snacks, condiments, baking supplies. It's the same strategy everywhere. Here's the part that makes this even more deliberate. Stores also place kids' products, sugary cereals, and brightly colored snacks at child eye level to trigger nagging and impulse requests. They're literally engineering the layout to extract money from multiple generations simultaneously. Let me give you some context on how valuable this placement really is. Grocery stores charge brands between $1,500 and $20,000 annually per linear foot of premium shelf space, depending on location and traffic. If a company is paying that much just to be seen first, they're not passing savings on to you. They're recouping that investment through higher prices. Here's your move. Train yourself to scan the entire shelf vertically before making any purchase. Start at the bottom, work your way up, and compare prices across all levels. The bottom shelf is where stores hide the value because they know most shoppers won't look there. The moment you start checking, you'll realize how much money you've been leaving on the table simply because you shopped at eye level. I started doing this consistently about 6 months ago. My average grocery bill dropped by roughly 15%, with zero change in the products I bought. I just started finding the same items cheaper because I forced myself to look where stores didn't want me to look. Number 12, shopping hungry. And we've arrived at the oldest, most proven, and still completely undefeated trap in grocery store history. Shopping while hungry is such a well-documented mistake that it's become a cliche, yet millions of people do it every single week and then wonder why their cart is full of items they didn't plan to buy. Here's why this trap is so devastatingly effective. When you're hungry, your brain shifts into survival mode. Rational decision-making gets overridden by immediate biological needs. Everything looks appealing. Portion sizes seem reasonable. Junk food feels necessary. And your cart fills up with impulse purchases, driven purely by blood sugar levels, not actual needs. Let me give you research that proves just how powerful this effect really is. A study published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that hungry shoppers bought significantly more high-calorie foods compared to shoppers who had recently eaten. The hunger group didn't just buy more food. They specifically bought more junk, more snacks, and more processed items with immediate gratification appeal. And here's the financial impact. Another study tracking grocery spending found that hungry shoppers spent an average of 64% more than shoppers who weren't hungry. Let that number sink in. Simply walking into a store on an empty stomach can increase your spending by more than half. I ran my own version of this experiment. For 1 month, I shopped after eating a full meal. The next month, I shopped right after work before dinner when I was starving. Same store, same shopping list, same budget intentions. The hungry month, my total spending was 58% higher. I bought chips, cookies, frozen pizzas, energy drinks, and snacks I never put on my list. My brain was hijacked by hunger, and my wallet paid the price. Here's what makes this trap even more insidious. Grocery stores know this. They pump out fresh bakery smells, position hot food sections near entrances, and deliberately design stores to keep you walking longer, so hunger has time to build. They're not just selling food, they're weaponizing your hunger against your budget. So here's the simplest, most effective defense in this entire breakdown. Never, and I mean never, shop for groceries while hungry. Eat something before you go. Even a small snack is enough to stabilize your blood sugar and restore rational thinking. If you absolutely must shop hungry, make a detailed list beforehand and commit to buying nothing that isn't written down. No exceptions. No flexibility? Stick to the list or leave the store. Here's the truth. Shopping hungry is a self-inflicted wound. It's completely avoidable, costs you hundreds or thousands annually, and benefits nobody except the grocery store. If you can't master this one basic discipline, every other strategy in this video is pointless because hunger will override all of them. And that brings us to the end. 12 traps. 12 opportunities to either keep bleeding money or finally take control of your grocery spending. The real question isn't whether these traps exist. They do. And they're working perfectly on millions of people every single day. The question is whether you're going to be one of them. Most people will watch this, nod along, and then walk right back into the same patterns next week because awareness without action is just expensive entertainment. So here's your moment of truth. Are you actually going to change your behavior? Or are you just going to keep funding the grocery industry's profit margins while pretending you're a smart shopper? If this opened your eyes, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. And maybe, just maybe, use that brain the next time you walk into a grocery store.